So, where I left off, I now have the ability to pull up a specific tile by name, like this. Bows.png has this artifact that I was spotting when I was flickering through them. And so I'm going to use the tool for today. It's only this sophisticated. I can just kind of filter in on a specific name if I know what I'm looking for. It's still missing a lot, but it's revealed a rendering artifact, and so I'm going to take that as the last step of this fun time with the tile set. And that'll be it for the project. I think I'll wrap at fixing this artifact. Unless I get done in 30 minutes or less, right? If I get this done in under 30, then maybe we'll take another 30 minutes to an hour to pick up a second task. But, yeah, this is just meant to be fun, and getting the rendering in good shape would be quite the accomplishment. Based on things I've been able to accomplish before, it's just cool progress. So, what's the artifact? The artifact is that I guarantee you that this is a bug, what we're seeing. There should be nothing visible. That's what I propose should actually be happening. This should look blank. And here are a couple arguments why. First of all, this is a 32 by 32 pixel tile, right? So it's right there, 32 by 32. So there's no way that as it zooms in like that, that it has the resolution to encode lines that thin, right? That would look like that. And for another reason, let's see, the crossbow is the same thing. Let's look at, if we look at something with color in it, like this guy here, we don't really see much of an effect like that. But here, the pixels aren't white. So maybe it's happening here too, but it doesn't show up as obviously an artifact. But if we're looking at this and we're trying to figure out how could something that just renders big pixels do this, and I've been thinking about it while I was eating lunch. I think that this has to be a pre-multiplied alpha problem. So what I think is happening is that if we go and look at this sprite, this tile asset here, it's going to be white with transparent pixels, right? A white foreground with a transparent background. And so our texture looks like that too. White is encoded as 1111. The first three ones give us RGB, and the last one's the alpha. And the transparent parts are probably 0000, so all zeros. And that gets uploaded into the texture as is from the bitmap or from the PNG. Then what happens is we go to sample from it, and it does a bilinear interpolation between the 4 points around an intersection, right? So either the two colors where you've got 4 corners basically, and each one gets a color. 2 of them can be equal on top and bottom to make it like a 2-way blend, which is what happens along the edges of pixels. And at the corner, you get a 4-way blend, with the amount of each contributor being determined by how much of the pixel, how close the pixel center is to each of the large each of the large 4 corners that it is placed within. So the question is, why would it turn out with a little bit of blackness mixed in, or a little bit of darkness mixed in? And the only reason I can think of is that it's grabbing some black pixel with a transparent alpha and a white pixel with an opaque alpha, so all zeros and all ones. It's blending them together to make 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, or something roughly like that. But if it's 50-50 split, as an example, it's 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. The first 3 give us the RGB of middle gray, and the last one says we have half alpha. But this is wrong, right? If I say that I have 2 pixels next to each other, and then I need a blend between them, one of them's an opaque white pixel and one of them's a transparent pixel, I wouldn't expect you to tell me that it's 50% gray. I would expect you to tell me that it's 50% white, right? and you know, or white with an alpha of 50%. And the way you solve a problem with that, like that, is that you instead of having R, G, and B range from 0 to 1, they range from 0 to alpha. Alpha has to be multiplied in, so that if you have something like a blend between them, and then you want to say, okay, I've got 0. 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, well, that's actually white. If we interpret that as white, we get it's correct in that particular example. And in general, this is the way it'll have to be, so that those bilinear interpolations are working correctly. Now, I believe that must be what's happening. I believe that we are going to need to go and either modify the texture or somehow modify the bilinear sampling routine rules. I'm not sure if that's possible. I've never thought about that before. I know how blending to the destination works, right? The source and destination blend. But I don't know if bilinear sampling can be tweaked to be like, hey, you need to treat this as not having pre-multiplied alpha, so do something a little different. Or alternatively, if that's the default already, then this artifact is something else. Either way, the goal is to solve the artifact. And by the way, I didn't stop to talk about this, but if you're watching and you can't see the artifact at all, if this just looks like a purely white screen, then let me explain that what I am seeing, because it is, I know it's going through video, encoding, and it's also very faint on my screen in the sense that it's a very small amount. It looks like just the tiniest little like outline of a pixelated bow and arrow for me. And it's not solid black. It looks like it's very faint gray, and it kind of flickers. It's inconsistent how intense the darkness is. So that's what I'm seeing, and I need to make it stop because it's definitely not supposed to be possible for it to look like that. So let's see. First things first, let's confirm my hypothesis by going into data. Actually, I need to pull up the viewer one more time. Show me bows.png. That's in supplemental GUI skills. Okay. Supplemental GUI skills. Let's open this with never mind. Let's open Aseprite and look at this. And there, that confirms. No, don't. Please don't have Discord build-ins, Aseprite. That is not cool. Don't like ye. So, there it is. These are white and transparent, and it looks like white is 1111 and transparent is 0000. So that is confirmed. The only step left is to see if there's some way to modify the blending rule of the bilinear sampling, or if I'm just going to have to manually apply pre-multiplied alpha. OpenGL, modify the bilinear blend. Bilinear. Bilinear filter rules. Just give me the OpenGL bilinear filter rules. I don't want the code of how to do it. I want to understand what it does. Well, I know it's 3 lerps. The question is, what does it do with the alpha channel? Maybe what I'm trying to ask is OpenGL pre-multiplied alpha. But this is the output side. Okay. Okay. So, if it's just gonna always, let's approach it a different way. No, I can't get a direct answer on how things work by searching for it. So, experiment. We gotta do. We gotta do this. When we get asset image here, we read it in as is, no modifications. All right, we're just gonna make things worse. We're gonna do float. Yeah, I was just looking to see if there was, because I know about the blend function rule. I was just looking to see if there was OpenGL parameters for modifying the sampler's bilinear filtering equation. That's all I was looking for. Doesn't exist, so, you know, moving on. Um, yes. And then well, why don't we do dist3 equals source 3 over 255 first, and call that A, and then these can each be this times A. Yeah, I know you can just offset the sample point to get the weights you want. That I've gotten used to. But what you can't do is you can't change how alpha is interpreted in the blend, right? If you wanted to actually bilinearly sample from a non-pre-multiplied texture in place, you would multiply the alphas into the color, then blend, then divide the total alpha back out. And apparently there's just not an option to configure that kind of behavior. So you have to pre-multiply your textures, I guess, if they have transparency. I'm sure that this is something everybody who spent time in graphics already knows, but okay. So that's pre-multiplied. So when you interpolate them, you'll get a pre-multiplied output color. So the fragment shader, since the destination buffer is not in pre-multiplied alpha, we'll need to do vec for premul Okay, that looks fine. So the question is, haha, now it's gone. That was it. So that's it. Um, Time, 24 minutes. Under 30. Excellent. So we do get to do a second thing. Okay. Okay, here's a good second thing. Now that this is working, you can't see the white pixels, so we need a transparency background to work. I threw that up, I threw that out last time, but now it's necessary. It goes from being able to visualize to not being able to visualize the data with that change. So now let's visualize it again, but better. App, update, and render. What happens is we begin the render right here. This doesn't need to happen right away. This is what happens here when we go to render the asset view. We render onto the mainframe buffer, and we're gonna need something like what I did yesterday to hack this up, ROGL blit from canvas, or something like that, with the destination buffer being mainframe buffer. Probably something like a destination X and a destination Y, although I don't know how I'm going to figure out what those are. Split to canvas. I think it's like this on both sides or something. I don't know. I need to go. I'll do a pass through my understanding of how to lay these out so I can get them all pointed the same direction and using the same corner. Oh, why can't it all just line up? I'm not sure why I have it like shifted around and flipping all the time. Probably just inconsistent conventions, or it's a convention that doesn't have closure with itself somehow. Okay, I need to check something though. OpenGL blit from texture to multi-sample texture. GL blit frame. Let's just look at the function. This probably have the best information. Read and draw are those by GL multi sample. Okay, so this should be allowed because it looks like that the only rule against having multi-sampled buffers is to have two of them at the same time that have different numbers of samples. They don't want to have to figure out how to preserve from one to the other. Which is cool. So something like this. I need this because my render layer, which gives text, isn't really well designed for integrating on top of direct OpenGL use. And I'm just hacking it for now to get it up and running and to make enough of a mess to give me an idea of how to fix it. This is the source range. And then this is dest x0, dest y0, and the same again, but containing dim.x and plus dim.y. So our canvas goes onto this destination buffer at this position from the position where we're using it. These need to flip. Everything's still going, but we're not using that initial section to draw anything yet. So we wouldn't expect anything yet. So I need to go back to the asset viewer. And before we get to this part, we're going to draw the thing, and then we blip. Out of the render layer. Modify the filter hotkey. Where do I want to draw this? I think I want to draw it like the top or something. Background. I think something like that should be good. Might need to be brighter, but we'll see. Then what we do is we go p.x plus equals size, x plus equals 1, if p dot x is greater than app canvas dim dot x. Then p dot x equals p0 dot x, p dot y plus equals at size, x equals 0, y plus equals 1. If p dot y is greater than or equal to app canvas dim dot y, then break. Here we go. No, that's not quite right. Okay. Now, why is that going? Why is that overlapping on front? Split from canvas. So we should get... Oh, but we cleared this to white. Split from canvas. Okay, so we should be turning these off. But still, something else is wrong. Okay, first I'll set these to white. Okay, there's the checkerboard, but what am I gonna do? I'm gonna have to go to render doc for this. This is a little confusing to me. Launch. No, don't save this capture. Boom, great. Capture it. Great. Cool. Now this is gonna be filled with a couple of cool spots, but let's see. We start off with clearing to white on texture 63. Frame buffer 60 has texture 59, 60 to 59. (52, 63). 53 to 63. Okay. So when we cleared 63, this was the 53 frame buffer, then we blit onto 59 from here. So yeah, this positioning is super wacky. I don't know why I have it set up like this. Wait, no, that's not. That's just a big square texture, and this isn't. I see. Okay. Oh, I see. It's because of the flush timing. Wait, look at that. Boom. 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 That last step, there is an sRGB resolve happening at the end that's changing everything. But I'm not encoding that on purpose on the front end, so that's something to look at too. This last texture is the window itself is sRGB'd. but I'm mistakenly treating the inputs as linear, so I am modifying the brightness. Okay, we'll get that right. We'll get that right before I'm done today too. But let's fix this flushing problem first. So OGL render impl. Before you can blit from the canvas, we need render helper. What is it, like flush? So R end does a flush, but we didn't make one for doing a temporary flush. Oof. Okay. And then I do wherever I blit from the canvas, I'm first going to do a flush. So we flush the canvas, we flush the commands onto the canvas, that way the blit works. Didn't do anything. Flush list doesn't also clear the list. How can I clear the list? How does R context list? I think we do this. There it is. Okay, cool. So now if I want to see bows.png and I'm like, hey, I can't see the white part, that's cool. You can just tell it to start moving around and then you'll get a better look. But we can do some other things to help you see it in these cases too. Like we could make the granularity small instead of big. Get this thing going like this. See, how can I make it easier to see this? I could make it so you can toggle between several different backgrounds. So you could set the background to black or like darker gray or something. Or you can have a dark background and the checker background and a bright background. Or maybe there's a dark mode and a light mode. So if this one's not good, you can flip it. Let's try dark mode. Love the perpetual inconsistency of all my rendering stuff. Oof, never really did get that under control. Man, oh man. Okay, and then we're in dark mode. Back color is going to become very close to black. The check color will go hang out on the other side of gray. Okay, if I type in bows.png and I can't see it, and then I go dark mode, now I can see it. Okay, now let's go deal with the fact that I didn't know about the fact that we were doing our sRGB here. When I set up this texture, I need to make it sRGB. Okay, so now that's not getting brightened like it was. If I want to look at one of the dragons, let's redo that. It's hard to find what you're looking for in this thing still. Let me get my stake. I saw one I liked. There we go. What is this? Dragon.png. Perfect. Now I know what you're called. Set you up. There we go. That's a good start. I'm pretty confident now that I've got the rendering on this in real good shape. Because I can do things like bows.png, and it's artifact free here. It's artifact free also here. If I go and check out something like the one I had originally, it was this. There we go. I feel like it just moves around so fast I have a hard time telling if there's any artifacting or not, but it's really, I mean, it's just not that bad looking. It looks pretty correct everywhere it goes to me. So cool. All right, that was 2 tasks, added up to about an hour. I think this is a good stopping spot for this little adventure and to get rendering these tiles. I think I might do this as a low-key thing on like an evening stream now and then, make progress on the ability to view these, and maybe try to put this into 3D instead of 2D, set up a 3D camera with a sort of Paper Mario 2D sprite character in it, and play with it like that. But this will be it for now. I'll get back to working on the RPG simulator tomorrow, or whenever I stream next, at least. Maybe not tomorrow. But the other thing I wanted to say about all this is this has given me a real use case for my render layer that is also looking to do more than rendering. And so I think it's going to force me to finally revisit the rendering layer one last time and do a nice cleanup on it finally that has been long overdue with some of the complexity that I wasn't able to test out because I didn't have a real use case before. With that, I will sign off for today. Thanks for coming and hanging out and checking out what I'm doing, and I will see y'all around the internet. Bye.